Hello friends, welcome to our labor and delivery vlog slash story time, because we didn't take as many vlog clips while I was in labor as I think we hoped or planned. And obviously we had our baby because she's right here.
She is.
Little Edelyn, Kathleen. We're absolutely in love with her. She looks so grumpy.
She's asleep, but she's kind of in that in-between stage where her eyes are still opening and doing weird things.
So she's actually almost a month old. She'll be a month old in like 3 or 4 days.
We've almost made you last a month.
Yeah, we've almost made you last a month like it's a bottle of fine wine. We will be doing, hopefully, I'm going to try to do monthly baby slash postpartum updates if you guys want to still keep track of her and just like her milestones and then what my body has experienced postpartum. Be sure to look out for those little vlogs slash story time videos. But anyway, I guess let's just jump into our labor and delivery experience. Okay, so if you guys didn't know, that I had a scheduled induction on December 27th slash 28th. I had gestational diabetes for like during my pregnancy. I was diagnosed at like 26 or 27 weeks. So because of that, they don't like you going past 39 weeks if you're on insulin. I was on insulin for my nighttime, or not for my nighttime, for my morning fasting numbers. I was mostly diet controlled except for my very first number I tested in the morning was always high no matter what I did, and that's just hormone related, so they put me on insulin. Therefore, if you're on insulin, they induce you between 38 and 39 weeks. So it was a medically necessary induction. Before that, we thought we were going to go into labor on our own. We never did. So we went in on December 27th.
Well, you guys, got some good news and some bad news. The bad news is, yeah, the week 37, 38 of pregnancy was real, and we just did not do any Vlogmas at all. We just decided to hang it up, especially once our family got here. Things got stressful, and long story short, we haven't vlogged in several days. But the good news is, we're having a baby.
We're having a baby.
We're having a baby. If the nurse walks in, we'd probably be in trouble for me being in your bed right now.
Maybe. But I'm 39 weeks today. My induction day is tomorrow, but they said it could be a few days until we have her.
Could be tonight.
Yeah. But the nurse that checked me today said I am dilated to a 1 and I am 50% effaced. So we started Cervidil tonight and then we'll start Pitocin in the morning. My hair is looking
You don't know what that is? I don't know what that is. Go look it up. We probably don't need to explain it here.
Yeah, her heartbeat is going crazy because she's moving a lot, and then I've had a few contractions, especially since they put the Cervidil in, which they warned us that would probably happen.
Yeah.
But, yep, now I think they're going to give me my insulin tonight, and then they're going to check my fasting in the morning.
And that's it.
Yeah.
We're going to have a baby.
Mm-hmm.
Our family's just left. They've been here with us all night. Well, my mom and her mom, we had other family here that had to leave a couple of days ago. But
yeah, because we celebrated Christmas, and
we have a lot to update you guys on, I feel like, because we haven't vlogged in a while, but we just want to let you guys know we're here.
We're here.
And we won't leave without a baby in our arms.
Nope. It's weird to think. I thought we'd for sure at least have her by tomorrow, but they're saying that it could be like the 29th or...
We have 0 minutes left on this memory stick.
Oh, shoot. We checked into the hospital at 6 p.m.
Which initially was supposed to be the 27th, because that was when you were 39 weeks, was the 27th.
Mm-hmm.
So that should have been when they induced her, and
yes.
She should have been born that day.
Yeah.
But when she called to make the appointment...
No, they had already done it. They called me to reschedule because the inn was full. That's what they said. They had apparently scheduled all the inductions that they could for the 27th, so therefore I couldn't be induced on that day, which kind of frustrates me because I was supposed to be induced between 38 and 39 weeks. I was not supposed to go past 39 weeks. However, it was completely fine.
In hindsight, we should have looked for a stable outside the hospital and still had her on the 27th.
She's not Jesus. We checked in at our specified time. I was a ball of nerves going into the hospital, I feel like. Our parents came with us. Our moms did. So our moms were with us. And they started me on a medicine called Cervidil, which is like, basically it's like a tampon. is what the nurse told us. It's like, it's this little tampon they insert, and it's supposed to ripen your cervix, supposed to make you dilate and do all the things to hopefully prepare your body for labor. So they started me on that around 7 p.m. And then the hope was to leave that in until the next morning. They were going to take it out at 7 a.m. on the 28th. From there, we would start Pitocin the next day. However, that's not quite how things went.
You're going to get a nice big breakfast.
Gosh, yeah, I was already planning on it because they were even saying, like, you're going to have a breakfast. Like, I had eaten a very, very light dinner that night, and I was just so nervous, like I could not eat much. We had this whole plan, like we were gonna rest the entire night. I was gonna eat breakfast. I didn't have a good dinner the night before. I literally had like yogurt, I think, and something else for dinner. Oh, protein shake. That was my dinner. I was just so nervous I couldn't eat. I really wish now I would have eaten a bigger dinner before we went in. I really, really should have. After they put in the Cervidil, I was already having contractions on and off for like a few days. But once I put the Cervidil in, I started having contractions like more consistently, and they weren't anything like super intense. They just kind of felt like period cramps, and I was actually able to sleep through them. So throughout the night I was having them, and it was showing steady on the monitor. I was having them like every 5 minutes, but they just weren't like super intense. Every now and then one would wake me up and I'd be like, oh, that one's really strong. But then I'd go back to sleep. Okay guys, it is currently like a little past 10:30. Is it like 10:32?
10:30 exactly.
Yeah, 10:30 exactly. So it has been almost 3 hours, well, over 3 hours since they put in the Cervidil, and I'm feeling it. She told me that it could cause like cramping and a few other things, and I wasn't feeling crampy at first. I'm also feeling like a sharp pain down in my nether regions, which I thought was just lightning crotch, but it was a little more tense. And I've had a few contractions, and now the cramping has begun right when I'm like wanting to go to sleep. So like my whole lower tummy is just cramping really bad, like bad menstrual cramps. So hopefully that's a good thing though, because the first nurse said it could take a few days to actually go like to get labor going, and I really don't want to be in labor for a few days. I'd rather just get her out tomorrow and be home by New Year's. Tyler's over there all set up in his bed, but we're gonna try to get some rest, and hopefully tomorrow we'll have a baby.
That's crazy.
Are you excited?
Yeah.
Me too. I'll be excited once the uncomfortableness is done. Like after they insert the Cervidil, I feel a ton of pressure down there. So yeah, all right, we'll see you guys tomorrow.
Bye.
Around 3:30 a.m. I had this really strong urge to go pee, like, and I had been peeing throughout the night the entire time because pregnant, and she was sitting on my bladder, and I'd gotten up to go pee, and as I stood up, I felt liquid just go all over the place. So
it was 3:23.
Yeah, 3:23 a.m. and I was just standing there and I'm thinking, I just freaking peed on myself. Like that was my first thought, because I had woken up quite a few times to pee in the middle of the night, and I was like, crap. But then I stood there and it kept coming out, and then at some point I'm standing in a puddle and I turn around and Tyler's asleep on the little couch, and I'm like saying to him, Tyler, over and over again, and he's not waking up, like he's sleeping, and I'm thinking, I think my water just broke. I can't wake up my husband. I can't just keep standing here because it kept coming out. So I pick up the little remote thing they give you on the hospital bed, and I hit the nurse button, and the woman answers, and she was like, hi, how can I help you? And I was like, yeah, I think my water just broke. And Tyler shoots up and he goes, what? And I'm like, okay, now he wakes up. So sure enough, I'm still standing in this puddle of water. It's still coming out. My nurse walks in, Jackie. She was awesome. Like, we had the best nurse to start off our labor with. So Jackie walks in and she is like, yeah, that looks like your water, but I still need to test it to make sure. So they have this little swab thing. She swabbed the fluid. if the stick turns blue, it means it was your water that broke. She swabbed it, and as soon as she did, it turned blue. She went, yep, that was your water. So I'm off now standing to the side, and then another gush comes out, and there's another little puddle on that side of the floor, and I feel so bad. I'm like, I'm making a mess. I'm so sorry. She's a nurse. She's seen it all. Then I go to the bathroom, and sure enough, there's more fluid, more other stuff that comes out. The Cervidil fell out, and then she checks me. Yeah, she checks me for dilation, and she said I was at a 3 or 4 centimeters dilated, and I was like 70% effaced, or I don't remember how effaced I was at that point. So we decided to go ahead and call our parents and let them know my water broke, just because after your water breaks, things can either like speed up or...
Well, did you say that your contractions immediately started getting intense, like right after that happened?
Oh no.
They were starting to get really bad.
Yeah, so like right after my water broke, it really was like immediately after my water broke, like my contractions just like picked up. And I remember standing there waiting on the nurse to come back in to like check the fluid. And I remember you standing there with me, and I was thinking, I'm standing in my own water right now, and I'm having like a contraction, and it's really painful. So from there, she checked me, and I was 3/4 centimeters dilated, and we were not in our delivery room yet. We were in like it was called an antepartum room. So basically like a holding cell until you go into labor. And basically my nurse checked me for dilation, said, okay. And I asked her, I was like, so when are we going to move into the labor and delivery room? She's like, oh, I think you might be ready because you're dilated and your water broke, blah, blah, blah. Labor's starting. So at that point, my contractions hurt enough to where I just didn't want to sit down. So I kept like just pacing our antepartum room until she told me it was time. But before that, at some point I got back in the bed. Mm-hmm. I remember that because I got my first dose of pain meds in that room. We were in there for a while after my water broke, about right. So my mom and them got there around 4:30 or 5, I would say. It was more like 4:30. 4:30. Yeah. So our parents drove up to the hospital.
They were staying here. They've been with us for a week or 2 at that point.
Yeah, our moms. Yeah, just our moms. Mm-hmm. So they came out to the hospital. At this point, I'm kind of like walking around our antepartum room trying to deal with the contractions. At some points I was like laying down. This part to me is a little bit of a blur, and I don't think we got any vlog clips at this point. I remember at one point she told me that I could ask for my epidural at any time if I wanted one, and I knew I wanted to start off with like the lowest amount of pain medication and then work my way up to the epidural. So the first plan was for me to use the IV pain medication. So she checked me for dilation. I think I was around at this point a 5 centimeter dilated. Mm-hmm. I can't remember exactly.
That's what I'm looking up right now. I recorded everything that day.
Oh, did you really? Why didn't you bring this up earlier?
Because I forgot. Painful contractions began roughly 2 minutes apart. Labor kicked in hard after water breaking. Parents arrived around 4:30. Saber got pain medication, fentanyl, through her IV. Made her sick.
Oh, so around 4:30 then is when I got my first dose of pain medications.
Yeah.
I remember before that though, because yeah, right after my water broke, my contractions were super, super strong. I was kind of walking around a room, pacing, just trying to make them like ease up a little bit. And then I ended up laying back down in bed because I started feeling dizzy. Before I even got the pain medication, I started feeling nauseous. And I even told my nurse that because she was letting me know I could get my epidural at any time. I told her I wanted to start off with pain medication just to see how I responded to that. So she went ahead and started me on that. And immediately after she gave it to me, like as she was putting it in my IV, the room started spinning. And I remember getting like really, really dizzy and just feeling super sick. And I didn't throw up in that room yet, did I?
Yeah, you did.
In that room I did?
You threw up a lot.
Okay, so apparently I got sick in that room. And then I remember shortly after that is when we moved to our labor and delivery room. Because
you got sick a couple times in the trash can before she even brought the bucket.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
And then she brought us a bucket to throw up in, but at that point, the trash can was already soiled.
Yeah. Yeah.
But then you did end up throwing up in the bucket too, so you threw up a couple times while we were in there.
Yeah, I got really sick. So the IV pain medication apparently heightened that. It made me really dizzy, really nauseous. So I can't say whether or not that was even worth it for me. Like,
I did.
it distracted me from my contractions because I was throwing up.
Well, it numbed the pain. You weren't feeling them as bad. It took the edge off of them.
That's true. But
But she gave you a second dose, telling you that the second dose really isn't going to do anything.
No, she asked me if I wanted a second dose, and she told me it wouldn't do anything.
But she gave it to you anyway.
Did she really? I didn't know she gave it to me anyway.
She gave you a second dose in the delivery room. So then we moved into our labor and delivery room around 5:15 a.m. This is about...
I'm really glad you kept track of all this because...
almost 2 hours. Yeah, just about 2 hours after your water broke, we went to the labor and delivery room.
Mm-hmm.
And it was shortly after that you decided to get your epidural.
Yeah, so I know they checked me. I definitely knew I wanted to be more dilated than a 3 or a 4 before I got my epidural. So I was kind of... One, she told me if I wanted an epidural, we had to do more fluids at that point.
6:30 a.m.
Yeah, so I remember I wanted to be around a 6 centimeter in dilation. The nurse checked me. She said I was about 5 or 6 centimeters dilated. So then I was like, sure, okay, I'm in. Let's get the epidural. So they started my fluids. And then about 30 minutes later, I got my epidural. Pretty simple and easy process. Hi, Blaze.
He wants to join. A little obstacle course for Blaze over here with all the cords.
Blaze, you can't sit just right there.
Yes, you can. He's part of the family too.
Okay. The epidural was probably like one of the easiest parts. Whenever you're experiencing like super painful contractions, that was nothing. Like literally, so when they come in, they made Tyler and our moms leave the room, and it was literally just my nurse and the anesthesiologist, and they first numb your back, which is just like, she said it's gonna be a little pinch, and it literally just felt like a shot. So they numb your back first, and then, are you Instagramming?
Yeah.
I don't know why I didn't realize this, but the epidural, like, they leave in your back. So just a heads up, if you didn't know that, it's not like a shot and it numbs you. It's like a thing they put in your back. They tape it down to your back, and it's in your back the whole time.
Doesn't it like continually flow through and like numb?
Yeah, so
like wraps around your spine or something?
Yeah, I don't know the actual process of it, but all I know is it worked, kind of. So after they did that, I felt really good, and I was able to actually like sleep through my contractions for a little while. So
all right, good morning, guys. It is now the next day, December 28th, 2017. It's a Thursday, and we are in the labor and delivery room.
Yeah.
So we moved out of our, what was that,
the antepartum.
The antepartum room about, well, like 3:20 in the morning. I was sleeping soundly, and I heard this beeping sound, and then I hear the nurse come on the intercom and say, "Can I help you?" Sarah said, "I think my water just broke."
Yeah.
So that happened.
Yeah.
Then labor started like pretty immediately.
Yeah. I was cramping throughout the night and having contractions while I was sleeping through most of them. And then I had an urge to go to the bathroom, so I stood up and it just like went everywhere. So we've only had Cervidil so far. We haven't had to start Pitocin yet. And I went from being 3 centimeters dilated to between a 5 and a 6. So, and I went from being 50% effaced to 90%. They haven't checked me in a while though. I got my epidural. I'm feeling a lot better.
Good. There for a while, right after the water broke.
They got
Your contractions were pretty intense. Now you can relax. The nurse seems to think we won't even need Pitocin. She has it here for after the delivery, but it seems like everything's pretty much going naturally. Your body's doing what it's supposed to be doing.
Yep. She just needed a head start with the Cervidil.
Yep. Maybe the next hour or two, we'll have our BB.
Parents are here.
Parents are here. There's my mom.
Hi.
There's Sabra's mom. Let's see if you can get some more rest.
Okay. Allergy 7-8.
Mm-hmm. Tyler. Okay, guys, it is, what time is it?
Baby time.
9:41.
It's 9:41. My nurse just checked me again. I started feeling more pressure just in my nether regions. And she said I'm dilated to about a 7 or an 8, and I'm almost all the way effaced, just not quite. There's a good chance we're gonna have this baby before noon. I forgot what else I was gonna say.
still no Pitocin, still just me and my own contractions doing their thing. So I think we're really happy about that because I didn't want Pitocin at all. But
she just needed a little push.
Yeah. So Cervidil did the trick for me, apparently. And now we're just waiting. Like, it's just...
Apparently we're the exception to the rule. It doesn't normally go this fast.
There's no rules in labor. Anyway, okay. I'm gonna sit here. I have this, they put a ball between my legs that they keep calling a peanut. And it's supposed to help her lower down. I don't really know. But I'm really hungry, so I need her out so I can eat.
I told Tyler and our moms to go eat breakfast, like eat food, because I couldn't. Someone needed to eat for us.
I felt so bad. I didn't want to eat if you couldn't be eating, but the nurse made a good point. She's like, it's going to be a long day for you guys too, and you guys need your energy. And I didn't want to pass out when my wife was having a baby.
Yeah, at this point we had a new nurse, Anna, and she was absolutely wonderful as well. Like, we had the best 2 nurses. Our first nurse, her name was Cindy, but we only had her for an hour. So we didn't get to experience a lot of her. But the 2 nurses we had while I was in labor were absolutely phenomenal. I love both of them.
You had your epidural at 6:30. The new nurse Nana. The new nurse Anna replaced Jackie at 7:20, and me and our moms left for breakfast at 8 a.m. while you got some rest before things really started kicking in.
Yeah, so I slept for an hour or 2. I don't remember how long I slept for. And I will say at this point too, like, I packed, oh my goodness, like the looks of this.
Oh man.
There we go. Our 2 children right here.
Perfect.
Our firstborn.
She did not make that up.
No, I saw
Pull it
something.
forward a little bit because the floor is in it. Sorry for all the changes in position of this video. We've had to move the tripod several times now.
Yes. So anyway, where's your phone? 'Cause I don't remember. At that point, all I know is part of my epidural wasn't working.
Yeah, why was that?
I had a window, apparently. That's what they called it. Oh my gosh. Perfect. Oh my god. Blaze. So, oh my gosh. This is dysfunctional. I can't sit.
Oh, hi, dog.
Are you done? Can we finish?
You started having lots of pressure at 10:45, and you were dilated to a 9. That's crazy. You went to a 9 at 10:45,
Mm-hmm.
and you were at 9 for like the rest of the day.
Gosh. Yeah. So, yeah, 'cause whenever they checked me before my epidural, I was at a 5 or a 6. So I dilated to a 9 within like, what, a few hours?
Yeah.
Like 3 hours?
By 10:45, you were a 9, so 4 hours-ish.
Yeah, so basically, guys, at this point, I didn't even have any Pitocin because the Cervidil was enough to kick labor in gear for me. So I was able to kind of go into labor on my own. Not really. I still had medical intervention, but I didn't have to take Pitocin. So that's what I really wanted to avoid, was because I know Pitocin just makes your contractions stronger. It makes labor sometimes harder. I just didn't want to do that. I was not about that life. But so like Tyler was saying, around that time I started having a lot of pressure. She started flipping me into different positions at this point. Like, she had me lay on my left side and she had me rotate and move on my right side to help move the baby down. But I started noticing at one point that I started feeling a lot of pain in my right hip. Like, in my right, I don't know even how to describe that area that I was feeling pain, but it was like, it was hurting so bad. I cannot imagine if I had not gotten the epidural feeling that pain. Like, she explained it as I had a window in my epidural, so basically a spot where my epidural wasn't covering. So I felt everything in that spot, and it was just like, it hurt so bad.
And what I'm thinking at this point is, I don't know, if you're unfamiliar with the birthing process, you start pushing the baby out when you're 10 centimeters dilated. So when she came in and said she was at a 9 and she was feeling all this pressure, I was like, this is it. We're about to have a baby.
It's at 10:45 in the morning.
10:45 in the morning. 11:11 comes around. We made a wish that the baby would come.
Mm-hmm.
But also, the doctor came to do another blood sugar test. Your blood sugar is at 88, right where it needs to be, because it was a little too high the past couple of times.
Well, they were also giving me sugar water.
Yeah, that's true. They took the sugar water out.
or I don't know, the fluids they were giving me had sugar in it, and our doctor was like, why are you giving that to her? Because she has gestational diabetes, it's going to make her numbers be high. And my numbers were like borderline the whole time. They were staying at like 117 or something, and he's like, we want these numbers a little lower. Let's get her off that water and give her something else, a different fluid. So they switched that. My number was good after that.
Yeah, and then comes noon. They come back in to test, see how dilated you are, and I'm thinking, this is it. It's going to be 10.
They checked me for dilation.
9.5 centimeters.
I was
9.5.
I was 9.5, and basically at this point, I remember feeling so frustrated because I was in so much pain, even with my epidural. And basically she said, okay, what we're gonna do, because my contractions were kind of inconsistent, I think, too. Like at some points it'd be 2 minutes apart, and they'd be like 5 minutes apart. She said that they were gonna wait and see in 30 minutes if I dilate more, because it was just right at 9.5 centimeters. And she said there was a little piece of cervix that was kind of in the way that needed to like be removed or something. So she leaves the room.
They gave you Pitocin.
Not at this point.
At noon they gave you Pitocin.
Oh, they did? Well then, she checked me a few times and said I was 9.5 centimeters. And it was like the third time they checked me, they decided to start me on Pitocin. Basically, I stayed at 9.5 centimeters for like an hour or two, and by the second hour or something, that's when they're like, okay, we're gonna try to go ahead and give you the smallest dose of Pitocin we can to see if that'll push you to a 10. And it was like so frustrating because I remember her kept leaving the room, and she'd come back and she'd check me, and I was still just 9.5 centimeters, and I was like so frustrated.
It was, she checked you at noon, 9.5, added, that's when you had another dose of your epidural too.
So the doctor came in at that point because he's the one who told me, hey, you have a button.
Well, that was at 11:11 when he came in and checked your blood sugar.
Oh.
Maybe he did come in at noon too because he was about to leave. I don't know. Well, no, because
this is Dr. Martinez at that point.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, because he's the one who came in and he said...
He did come in because he thought, because you're 9.5, he thought you were about to have your baby. And he came in and said, hi, and then you're like, oh no, we're not ready yet, it's only 9.5. And he's like, okay, well, I'll be around.
Yeah.
And he just left.
Our doctor was great. Basically, because my doctor came back in, and at this point, my nurse kept switching me to my left side, and I told her, I really want to lay on my right side, because the right side is what was hurting, and I wanted to be on my right side. She was like, can we please just try to have you lay on your left side, because that's going to help you dilate more. And I was just like, oh my gosh, okay, I guess so. But I felt the pain so much more intensely on my left side. And then our doctor came in to check on me, and basically he said, by the way, you have the button that you can press and get another, like, up your dose of your epidural. And I was like, why haven't I done this? I forgot I had a freaking button. So, and then he said to my nurse, let's go ahead and switch her onto her right side and see if we can get that medication in that window. So at the same time, she switches me to my right side. I press the button. I still felt it. It was definitely not as intense though after I pressed the button for the first time.
Yeah, and that was at noon. They came back in at 12:30 to test you again. This is it. They gave you Pitocin. 9.5. It was another 9.5.
Yeah.
And then she said, all right, we're gonna try to push through it.
Oh,
do you remember that?
This is all like, at this point, this is where it starts getting blurry in my head. Like, I do remember her saying like, you know what, we're trying to have you push a little bit and see if we can get you to that 10. So it's already at 9.5. She said there was a tiny, tiny piece of cervix that was just in the way. So I remember pushing a little bit. And then she went, all right, yep, you're a 10. You're ready. No. It wasn't at that point?
No. She tried to push through it a couple times. You pushed through it and nothing happened, so she gave you more Pitocin.
Oh, I remember that, yeah.
At 12:30.
Yep.
Then she said, I'm going to come back in at 1:15.
Yep, I remember that, okay.
And so she came back in 45 minutes later. 2 doses of Pitocin, 9.5.
I was stuck at a 9.5 for what felt like forever, and it was so frustrating.
From 10:45 to 1:15. Then she had you push through it again. That's what you're talking about. That time you did push through it.
Yeah.
Whatever that means. I don't know what that means. She pushed through it.
Yeah. Pushed to the point where I was finally a 10, I guess.
Which she didn't seem too sure about. She's like, yeah, we can start actually pushing now. But there were a couple times in the middle of pushing that she was like, oh, that little piece is back, but we're just going to keep going.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, that's when the pushing began.
At what time?
1:15.
Yeah, so we started pushing at 1:15. So we started pushing at 1:15. That was the worst part. Even with my epidural, like, I will say the whole time I had my epidural, like, I could still move my legs. I could still move my toes. Like, my mom kept saying, can you feel that? And I'm like wiggling my feet, and I'm like, I felt enough Like, I don't think my epidural is as strong as some people was. I don't really know the phrase to say there, but
I mean, you only push the button once. I'm sure there are people that push the button a lot.
yeah, but I could still feel my lower half. It was just more tingly numb, but I wasn't like in full loss of control of my body.
Yeah.
So we start pushing. She has me move in a whole bunch of different positions for pushing, and I remember just like at that point I wanted to give up. I'm like, this is so freaking hard, like. And I didn't ever feel a super strong urge to push at this point. And I was kind of frustrated because she kept telling me, like, whenever you feel a contraction come, then that's when you want to push. And I felt the contractions happening, but I never felt the urge to push. So I feel like I was forcing myself to push. And we did that for an hour, and I think it was an hour and 10 minutes.
Something like that.
That's what my mom
That's
said.
crazy. When the same thing was going through my mind once we started pushing. I'm thinking, all right, we're gonna have a baby in like 10 minutes. This is great. Because that's what all the movies will have you believe, that you just push, and then out comes the baby. That's not how it happened.
No, and our nurse even let us know. Just so you know, it's very common for first-time moms to push around 2 hours. So that's what works. When she said that, I was like, 2
I'm done. Get me out of here.
Like, it's gonna take me I think she said 2 to 3 hours. And I was like ready to die right there. I was like, nope, I'm done. This is too hard. Birthing a baby is hard.
Because you joked with your mom before that. You're like, watch me push for 2 hours. Because we were talking about how long you'd been at 9.5.
So I pushed in all different positions for an hour and 10 minutes. At some point, finally, the doctor comes in and they start prepping things. And I don't know what it was. Like, our nurse Anna was so great, but just her telling me to push, I don't know what it was. I was so mad at her. Like, I think that was just because that was the hardest part of the entire labor experience, was the pushing. And I really wanted to like rip her head off because she just kept saying, keep going, push, push, push. And I was like, stop telling me what to do. I was like, I don't want to push. Whenever my doctor walked into the room, I was so relieved because I knew, okay, if he's coming in the room, that means like I'm about to give birth to this baby. And I just felt relieved. And he has such a calming presence about him. So he came in, he started talking to me a little bit.
Such a nice guy.
Yes. He said to us, basically, a few other women were in labor at the same time and were ready to start pushing as well. So at one point he said to me, like, you have my undivided attention or something like that. And I just remember feeling so relieved because I'm thinking, shoot, other women are in labor. He's the doctor on call. I better get to pushing. And I don't know. It was just really reassuring, him saying, like, you have my full attention.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7,
excellent.
8, 9, 10. Breath and do it again.
1,
2, 3, 4, 5,
You got me
7, 8, 9, 10. Breath and do it again. Go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Wonderful. Great job. There is a lot of hair on this baby. Go ahead, give it what you got. Gotta deliver this head. Push, 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 push.
5, 6, 7, 8, 9,
Okay, just
10.
never push right
Okay,
now.
got this.
Push,
1,
push, push, push,
2,
push, push, push,
3,
push, push, push,
4,
Down a little bit.
5,
Will be it.
6,
All right.
7, 8, 9, 10. You got this? 1, 2,
push, 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 push,
3,
push, push, push,
4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
She was gonna prep her in room 1. I told her not to push right now.
You knew it's gonna be all at the same time, right?
We predicted this too because this baby has.
Well, you got my full attention. Don't worry.
That's right.
You
He said, don't worry, you won.
Yeah, I won. So at that point, I don't remember much other than like pushing. And then I remember the doctor saying like, oh, look, do you see their head? And I remember my mom and Tyler going, oh my gosh, I see, blah, blah. And then where my bed was positioned, there was this light above my head, but it kind of acted as a mirror because I could look up and I could see everything. So as soon as I heard the doctor saying, "Oh look, there's her hair, there's a little bit of her head. Blaze, can you not?"
Gosh, okay.
I remember my doctor, because then I looked up because I heard them saying that they could see her head. And I look up and I saw a little bit of her hair. Maybe, I know a lot of moms don't want to see down there whenever they're in labor, but I feel like the moment I saw a little bit of her head gave me the energy and the motivation to like get her out because I wanted her, like it was actually real that she was right there.
Gosh, that was such a crazy moment to
Yeah.
see her little scalp and see these little hairs. And, that's so beautiful.
Yep. So then my doctor basically said, okay, we're gonna start pushing, and then whenever I tell you to stop, you're gonna take a few breaths because that means like her head's gonna be delivered, and then we're gonna deliver the rest of her body. So I remember pushing, I think I don't remember pushing much more after he said that. So I pushed, we delivered her head, and then he told me to breathe. I pushed again, and she was out, and he laid her on my chest. And at this point, it's a blur too.
1, 2 hard, 3, 4 hard, 5, 6, 7. Come on. 8, 9. You almost got it. You almost got it. 10. Come on. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Breathe, breathe, breathe. Baby's head's out.
Oh, I see it, baby.
Nice and easy. Give us a push.
Oh, there you go.
Push, 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 push.
Oh, how do you face it? Oh, she's crying. Chill 59. You're not pregnant anymore. Hi, gorgeous. No recording. Okay, no recording. Okay.
Here we go.
There you go. Gonna go find you, okay, Tyler?
Baby.
I know at some point I asked for skin to skin, and they unbuttoned my gown and put her on top of my chest, and I don't remember much at that point. I remember holding her and looking at her, and she was screaming her head off, and the nurses and the doctors kept saying like, "Oh, she has good lungs." Like
The second she came out, like, there was no hesitation.
she just like was screaming and crying, and that was such a good feeling to hear because I feel like that's another anxiety of all moms, like you're just waiting to hear that first scream or that first cry. And then they weighed her, and she weighed 8 pounds 1 ounce, so she was a little chunk.
Going into it, I wasn't sure that I'd be watching down there, like watching all the action happen. I thought I'd just
Watching my vagina be ripped open because I had stitches. That's something I think I didn't mention. I had a 2nd-degree tear, so I got stitches. But
I just thought I'd be up there by your head, holding your hand. I guess not realizing that you're kind of a short person, so when I'm by your head, I mean, you're kind of scrunched up like this, so everything just
and my
right
legs
there.
were like up by my chest anyway. Yeah.
But gosh, that was...
But say you didn't seem shy. Like you and my mom were looking down there the whole time. So
Like I said, there are no words to describe the beautiful experience of watching this sweet little baby come into the world for the first time.
we were able to record a little bit of her being born, mainly the main part of her being born we got. But then the nurse said, no videotaping, and Tyler was like, turn the camera. So we didn't get her being laid on my chest or anything like that. But there's a moment in that where she is born, and like Tyler has this look on his face. I don't even know if you've watched the clip yet. And he just like goes, and then I can see him start tearing up. And it makes me like tear up every time I watch it because it was so sweet, like him seeing his baby for the first time.
Gosh, I remember the first time she looked at me too. They put her on your chest, and I was on the other side of her. The baby was facing the grandparents, and I just had my hand resting on Edie's back. And I remember she was crying the whole time, like we said. But she like turned her head kind of, and her eyes looked over and met my eyes, and I saw my baby. Made eye contact with my baby for the first time.
Yeah.
Here she is, you guys.
Here's our little baby.
She is
Oh, I know.
the most beautiful creature I've ever seen in my life.
I bet you guys are wondering what her name is.
What's her name?
Edelyn Kathleen Martin. That's our little one,
Our
little
little
Edie K.
Edie.
You don't know how many times we had to edit her name out of Alex.
We don't have to edit it out this time.
I'm tired. I'm so hungry. I pushed for about an hour and a half, and that was the hardest thing I've ever done in my life.
You did so good, babe.
And then she was born at 2:29 on December 28th, 2017.
She was 8 pounds and 1 ounce.
21 inches long.
And
She's a big baby.
absolutely precious. It's now about 9 o'clock at night, December 28th. We're exhausted, all 3 of us.
We're very tired. She is very tired. It has been a tiring day for all of us.
She's gotten to eat a little bit. Now what she needs, they say, the nurses told us what she needs more than anything else is rest.
Yeah, and they said that doing skin to skin will also regulate her blood sugars. So far her blood sugars have been great. Her first one was 79. And then her second one was, I think, 75. Which it has to be over 45. So far, little girl's doing great. She's whooping us off. My blood sugars, however, my first one was not the best. But she's doing good. That's all that matters. Oh, the baby. And she had her first baby.
Poot.
It was so tiny. Tyler and I just looked at each other and we're like, was that you? And we're like, it's our child.
Our child is adorable.
So what we didn't realize at this point is that her bilirubin levels were really high, and that's what was making her lethargic, and that's why she wasn't eating. But the whole time I'm thinking, I'm just being a bad mom and I can't get my baby to latch. And at this point we had a lactation consultant come in, and we had 3 lactation consultants come in and visit us.
That was the next day.
Yeah. And it was just, that first night, I can't remember if it was hard or easy. I think we were just so tired.
Yeah, we were just tired. It was pretty easy. I remember the second night being the worst.
The second night was the worst. The worst. But she also, her blood sugars came back perfect, which is one thing they were worried about with gestational diabetes. So her sugars were perfect. My first sugar reading was really high because they gave me cranberry juice on accident and they weren't supposed to help me go to the bathroom.
Something.
Yeah, so it was in the high 200s. But the next day, all my sugars were perfect. Our little girl was diagnosed with jaundice, and her levels were high enough that we actually had to stay an extra 24 hours. I was discharged, but she had to stay under things called Billy lights. Basically, it looks like a little tanning bed for babies. And we were able to get her out every 3 hours for 30 minutes just to feed her. And the pediatrician came in and basically said, like, we needed to start supplementing and I could start pumping breast milk. So we were feeding her a little bit of formula at that point. And then we were also feeding her while I was pumping. And I was pumping a lot. I was getting 1 ounce of colostrum on each side. And I have an oversupply right now. Like, I'm pumping a ton of milk and I make a lot of milk. So the nurses every time were like super impressed by how much colostrum I was able to express, and we had to wake her up and like make her eat because she was so tired she didn't want to eat. But then the next day her levels were good enough for us to go home. I think, was it the next day?
It was Sunday, whenever that was.
Yeah, it was on New Year's Eve when we got to go home. So I remember just being stressed because I wanted to be home with my baby. That second night was the worst. She had really bad gas or something.
Yeah.
She just wouldn't stop crying.
And I feel like none of the nurses were helping us that night either.
They were not. We had a few good nurses that I can remember that I absolutely loved. We had less helpful nurses in postpartum. Like, it was just, we had some nurses we could really tell that cared, and other ones that were just like, this is my job and this is what I have to do. I have to do this for money, basically. So I don't know. I just feel like our postpartum part was not as pleasant as the labor. Yeah.
Like, the nurses that were good were still really good. Like, as good as Anna and Jackie. The nurses that weren't that good, I mean, they weren't bad. They just weren't super helpful. Doing everything they needed to do to keep her alive, but like,
treat us like stupid new parents. Like, we've never had a newborn before, and we'd ask questions and then make us feel stupid, or We had lactation consultants come in. My first lactation consultant was very frustrating. Told me basically that breastfeeding was natural and easy, and I just wanted to cry because I'm thinking this is not easy. Like, I can't get my baby to latch. I had one lactation consultant saying like we shouldn't be using, she told me to spoon feed her, and then the pediatrician comes in and says, no, we need her to be sucking on something because it helps her digest her food. So this whole time I've been trying to spoon feed her colostrum, and that wasn't helping her.
Which is why she wasn't pooping at all.
Yep.
Which is why her bilirubins got so high.
Yeah. So she was having wet diapers. She just wasn't pooping on the second day, like barely any. I don't know, just the recovery.
Boy, did she get over that I can't poop syndrome. All right, guys, it's been a long couple of days. There's a lot we have to update you guys on, but we just wanted to let you know that we just got the go ahead that we can take her home now.
Yes.
We're gonna get things loaded up, get her in our going home outfit, and then maybe we'll turn the camera back on.
Maybe. All right, guys, I think we already said this. We got the approval to go home. I am so, so happy. Like Tyler said, we have some things to update you guys on. We actually had to stay in the hospital a day extra because the little girl developed jaundice. Her bilirubin levels were really high and they kept raising. So it's just been a process. Like, the past 2 days have been very, very hard. Very exhausted, and I know that's not going to change, but let me show you little girl in her going home outfit. She looks so cute in her little bear socks, and she has her bear onesie on. I had a friend make us a bow for her, but it just would not stay on her head. So I'm glad I brought this one just in case, 'cause I had a feeling, you know, we didn't know what size she would be. So yeah, I'm excited. We get to take her home. Yeah, that's basically our labor and delivery story.
Yep, that's pretty much it.
And now we have a little baby.
Isn't she adorable?
She's my favorite.
She's been sleeping this whole time.
Anyway, you guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. If this is your first time hanging out over at the channel, we hope you will subscribe and stay around and just hanging out with us whenever we record videos and upload them. Love you all. If you like this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up.
And we are thankful to embark on this journey with you guys as we go from 2.5 to 3. Well, 3.5 to 4 with Blaze.
Oh, yep. All right. Bye, guys.
Bye. Blaze, come say bye. Over there, Blaze.
Bye, guys.
Here.
Oh my, no.
Not the baby. To the can. Oh, okay. Okay, bye.
Bye.